Welcome back. This is Bill Sahadi. We are speaking with Sergeant Tim Cameron and Detective Sergeant Donnie Shingleton, the Moore County Sheriff's Office, and we're talking about home security, fraud, things that we as homeowners need to be aware of to make our properties as secure as possible. Tim, one of the most intriguing points that you had brought up that we wanted to start to discuss was, how can the right landscaping improve home security? Because this was a point that you had wanted us to make, that it's a very essential part of home security.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people don't think about the landscaping as much, but if you've got a bunch of large shrubs or large trees that block your view of your house as you're pulling in, that could be a danger to you. Large shrubs planted near the garage where you may be pulling in allows somebody to conceal themselves near the garage door. Or if you actually have to walk up to your front door, large shrubs planted near the front door allows people to conceal themselves. So by keeping those pruned back, using lighting to light your house, exterior lighting, that you want to be able to see the exterior of your house as you're pulling in and see what's around there before you ever exit your car, because your car is a good defensive weapon. I mean, if you're in your car, you're relatively safe. In addition to keeping your shrubs pruned, if you're building a new home or have just bought a new home and need to do some planning, you can actually use shrubs as a more of an offensive type weapon. And what I mean by that is, if you plant shrubs that are low growing, sort of stay low, but holly trees, thornberry trees, any kind of trees that have briars and stuff, you plant these type of shrubs in and around and under your windows, keep them pruned low enough, but it's going to keep anybody from wanting to get close to that window. They're not going to be able to access that window because they're not going to want to stand in a holly bush to do it. So that's always advisable. Lighting, like we talked about, there's some cheap things you can do to improve the outside of your house for lighting. Motion detectors are real good. Right. A lot of people have floodlights on motion detectors. Of course, they trigger when anything sets them off, gets in that path, and if it happens to be a burglar, that of course will scare them. Photoelectric cells, if you don't have photoelectric cells, all that is a little device that as it starts to get dark enough, your lights will come on automatically. If you don't have those installed, you can actually go buy versions at your hardware store that are relatively cheap and install them in even your porch lights and make it where your porch lights pop on automatically when it gets dark. And then timers are real good if you're thinking about going on vacation. Right. Give the illusion that you're at home even if you're not. Set your timers to come on 7 o'clock at night, leave the lights on till 11, 12, whatever your normal bedtime is, and then have your lights go off. It gives the illusion that somebody is at home the whole time.
What about the people who talk about who don't have security systems on their home? You can go to hardware stores and buy dummy stickers. And to me, that's a very valuable deterrent, is it not?
Yeah, it is. That's one of the things I talk about in my presentations is give people the illusion of security. Right. Dummy stickers that are available at your hardware stores. They've got signs you can put out there, monitored by so-and-so security. Cameras, fake cameras you can mount. You can even give people a lot of people are afraid of dogs. Give people the illusion of dogs. You might not be able to have a dog, but if you put a beware of dog sign in your yard, have a large dog house, a large water bowl, and a logging chain tied to a tree and a big rawhide bone sitting out there, it gives people the illusion that you've got a man-eater out there, and they might not be as willing to come into your yard.
That's very smart. From what you were saying also, then it's not just a good idea to put a motion detector on a house for the homeowner's convenience, but maybe to put a motion detector on the other side of the house as a deterrent, just to keep the property as well lit and open as possible.
Yeah, definitely want to be able to see it. Like I said, as you're pulling in or as cars are passing up and down the road, most of your criminals, they try to hide. They don't want to be seen a whole lot. And if your house is clearly visible from the road, cars passing up and down it, it makes your house not a good target.
You've covered a lot of things about what people can do to improve their home security without putting a security system on the house. But you also wanted to talk a little bit about the type of alarms that are available.
Yeah, the type of alarms are out there. Of course, you've got audible alarms, silent alarms. Most people, for a residential, an audible alarm is recommended. You want something that's going to scare somebody if they were to kick in a door and set off a motion detector. That audible alarm will usually scare a burglar into fleeing immediately. But I encourage people to check when you're having these alarms installed. Check with the alarm company and run a couple of tests just to see. I know responding to some alarm calls and all, a lot of times depends on the alarm company that you're dealing with. Some of your alarm companies, their monitoring stations aren't even in this state. So they may, have somebody in another state that's watching the alarms, and depending on how many alarms that one operator is responsible for monitoring, it may take them 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes before they're ever able to contact your, law enforcement agency to respond. So when you get that alarm call, talk with them about what their response time is, how fast their operators, what their average response time is getting to call law enforcement. And then the law enforcement can respond.
That begs the question then, are people better served from your experience by working with local alarm companies as opposed to some of the national franchise alarm companies?
I would recommend, if you go with a national franchise, I would check to make sure that they had a local office, a local monitoring center, and that your alarm isn't going to Kansas City. Because even in the age of electronics where everything's speed of light, and the person in Kansas City may be monitoring an alarm panel with 1,000 alarms, and if 2 or 3 happen to be going off at the same time, where's that priority?
Okay.
Whereas a smaller company, maybe a more local company, might have a little less to monitor. Might be easier for them to give more attention to your situation.
Great information, and as much as we want to make this a Tim Cameron show, we also we want to speak to Beth Morgan, and we also want to speak to Donnie. But the information, Tim, that you're giving, I think it's not that people haven't heard it before, but it's in the order that you give it that tends to make sense to people, and then they start to listen to it.
Right.
And people can contact you too directly if they need to.
Yeah, give me a call at the sheriff's office, 910-947-2931.